Welcome to Watcher DM. I'm Gabriel. Today I am doing a flip through and review of Beyond the Pale by Yochai Gal and Lost Pages. This book is intense. The construction of it is beautiful. It's amazing. There's something kind of undescribable about the texture of the cover here. It's a linen cover, but it's just got a real tooth to it that makes it feel unlike other books I've held. Not dissimilar to the texture of the Stygian Library or the Gardens of Eden, which I think have a similar treatment. Obviously, it's a beautiful book. It is, I think, about 100 pages of content with gorgeous ex libris. A lithograph inside, whatever that is. I think it's just an illustration, but it's presented in a way that would be like a lithograph, with all kinds of occult imagery. The book is, I think, as described here, is an old school adventure in a place both real and imagined. In the village of Kest, the days of remembrance are near, and now a great cataclysm is approaching, ready to wash everything away. Can you uncover the town's secret before it's too late? Designed for Cairn, but mostly system neutral and easy to adapt to other RPGs. I did run this using Cairn, and it was one of my first times using Cairn as a system, so I don't want that to color my assessment too much, but it may. I think one of my favorite parts of this book is actually the dedication at the beginning, which I think is the first time I've seen a dedication kind of end a curse laid at the beginning of a book, which is awesome. May the names and memories of their murderers be erased from history. Just great. Copy editing was by Derek B., Yossi Kraus, and Sarah J. Developmental editing by Amanda P. and Brad Kerr. Sensitivity reading by Yossi Kraus. Layout by Eli Seitz, Paolo Greco. Layout assistance by Emil Boven. I recognize a lot of these names, obviously. These are some of the who's who in the indie RPG space. The first edition, first printing here, was in Glasgow in the winter of 2024. And the text of this is licensed under CC BY Share-alike 4.0. So you can technically share the text of this book, as long as you give attribution. If you modify it, it must also be share-alike, which is cool. This is the map of the region. I think the maps in this book are great. They're clear. They're easy to read. They are largely useful, although there are some caveats with that we'll get into in a little bit. And yeah, the flavor of having the Hebrew letters used throughout the book as a stylistic choice was great. And then you get the 10 emanations without form, kind of the Book of Formation scripture. I guess it's not really, I think this isn't a scripture. This might be from the Sefer Yetzirah or one of the other foundational texts of Kabbalah, I think. I do not know enough about it to speak more to it than that, but it's very evocative. The table of contents is, I think, clear and pretty well laid out. Although I will say, having used both the digital and physical version of this book, the bookmarks in the digital version are a bit confusing as they double up on a number of them. My advice is to go through and clean out the duplicate bookmarks from that book to make it more useful. And yeah, we start with our adventure summary, which is effectively, that this is an overland game, so that the adventure is set in this kind of wilderness area. Well, it's not really a wilderness, I guess. It is like in the west of this region where it used to be wilderness, and these Jews have been forced to come and settle here. So that's kind of the context. It is very much talking about a kind of historical place, the Russian Empire called the Pale of Settlement, 1791 to 1917, where the Jewish people were restricted to live in Russia. It was illegal for them to live in other places. And during that time, hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed in anti-Jewish attacks. Even still, the Jews of Europe were able to cultivate a rich culture and language. So, speaking to the resilience of the people, the currency used in the setting is called the groschen, which is equivalent. I think somewhere else it says they're equivalent to about a gold coin. You get the history of Kest. One of the things I really like about this book is how it's organized. The headers are on the hard left in this kind of small column, this thin column, along with definitions of words you may not be familiar with. I know I certainly wasn't. 30 years ago and then 12 months ago, so it gives you kind of a long and short view of the history. Also, something I really enjoy about this book or appreciate is that the page numbers are included where references to things are placed, which is great. The history of this place is effectively that a long time ago, 30 years ago, a tragedy called the Dawn Plague, befell this region, but befell this settlement of Kest. Only one adult survived. And so the children have grown up with this kind of generational grief. And yeah, a Mazik or Mazikim is an evil spirit determined to cause mischief and mayhem. They were kind of the cause of this problem. There's also a vampiric creature called an estri that can appear as a human, woman, or an owl that lives in the region. And then 12 months ago, Ayal, the newly appointed Parnas of Kest, entered in negotiations with the Holz Company for the rights to harvest trees from the Blue Forest. So lumberers are coming to try and take some resources. Ayal's brother, Rabbi Aria, does not want that to happen, so there's familial strife there. The rabbi also built an underground complex, the Tree of Life, hoping to use the power of a book that he has called the Book of the Night Wanderer. So that's kind of the setup here. And then we get into a timeline of the actual events that happen in the region throughout the adventure. So Wednesday is when the PCs arrive. So these are the 2 days prior. And effectively, so obviously spoilers for this adventure because I'm going to flip through the whole thing and talk about it. But the setup is that the rabbi used the Book of the Night Wanderer to build a golem and ended up opening a gate to the Yenvelt. A Dabuk, having sensed the community's latent trauma, stepped through and possessed the golem, killing one of the disciples before it could be deactivated. And the Rebbe and his followers then salted the exits, but they failed to close the gate. On Tuesday, the Dabuk took Frank as a host and then murdered Carl at Bromftman's home and then fled to the Zamdbreg ruins via the bedroom mirror. This creature can travel through reflections or reflective surfaces mirrors. The gate was left open, and something far more terrible came through the Aluka. And then Wednesday, the PCs arrive, and then these happen if the PCs do not intervene. Now, I ran this adventure as a one-shot, so I will talk about what changes I made to make that work, as this book contains obviously much more than a one-shot's worth of content. This talks about the Dabuk's movement, so where he moves and how he moves. Again, it's not super important until you start running it, but this is good stuff to have up front and kind of concise and consolidated in an easy to find place. The adventure hooks are where we start with my modifications. In fact, it's not even a modification. I simply used a mysterious group of scholars called the Council have asked the PCs to acquire the Book of the Night Wanderer, believed to be in the possession of Rabbi Aria. The pay is 3,000 groschen upon the book's successful recovery. So this was their hook, and I basically went a step farther and said, you are actual agents of the Council, so there are questions about piety and discreetness. Those are kind of answered by virtue of being members of this council. Also, it is unclear in the book here, but I just made the determination that the council and Rabbi Aria are on the same side, and effectively he would see them as allies in some respect, and worthy of his trust, at least a little bit. And then we get into Dramatis Personae. These are all the different characters. There are a ton of NPCs in this adventure, and they're all pretty interesting. I won't necessarily say that they're all easy to play given the content here, but like a lot is provided. So I think it's one of those cases where like learning about all these NPCs, up front is maybe not as useful, like in terms of you're going to just be reading a lot of dossiers up front. But being able to refer back to them quickly and have a single, these are really approachable clusters of text here. And the bullet points with the circle used to indicate, obvious information, and the double cross used to indicate secret information is super powerful. So you've got the rabbi, you've got the Parnas. These guys are brothers. You've got Rivka, the Balanis. She is pregnant and very beautiful. Manages the ritual baths. But nobody knows she's pregnant. She's about to start showing. And that becomes relevant to other things later. Ella the Shanker and Carl the Woodworker are a couple of Gentiles who run the tavern house. Frank Bronfman is also a Gentile who makes the Shatterfruit tree brandy. So Shatterfruit tree fruit is a unique thing in the setting here. And then Frank has been kind of taken over by the book. So you're given his regular stat block, or not stat block, but like information, and then you're kind of given his book information. Yankel the Bundist is a unionizer, I think. It's like a foreman, logger, and Bund member. So, Kivir the Shamash is wears a trifold hat and carries a long stick. Kivir, I did not end up playing Kivir, so I didn't really. I guess he makes the brandy from the shatter fruit at the orphan's mound. So I guess he is the actual one who makes the brandy. And Frank is the one who sells it. Avraham, the Shochet. I'm probably butchering these words, so I apologize ahead of time. Dark, beardless, and enthusiastic, operated the butcher shop along with his twin brother Moish until his disappearance last year. Moish the Gilgul is his brother and died, or I guess was killed by a landslide, and because of that has come back as a spirit. This Gilgul, a soul unable to transition to the next stage, reincarnating again and again. Zalman, the water carrier, is the adult who survived the Dawn plague, which was not a plague, but it was a disaster. People say it was a plague just to protect the kind of reputation of the community, I guess. You got Ida the Feldmesterin, who lives at the First Light. Again, did not interact with this character at all yet. Yosef the Iber. This is a benevolent possessing spirit that cannot ascend due to an obligation or deed. So this is another ghost. There's a lot of ghosts and spirits in this. Of course, all according to the names they would be given in Jewish lore, so in mythology. So that's kind of how they're presented here, which is gives a lot of like flavor to the setting and to the adventure. But it also means that you are onboarding a lot of information to new players. And I had a special way of kind of dealing with that. Farkas the Ganef, a toothy smile conceals the wolf hiding beneath, a spy for the Holtz Company. So this is somebody who is working for the Holtz Company, trying to get that deal pushed through. Xena the Estri, this is the vampire living in the blue forest. But she believes that Zalman is the Lamed Vavnik, which is one of the 36 righteous saints said to keep the world afloat. So really, really interesting, rich levels of lore here that, you would be hard pressed to find this kind of realism in your mythology, especially in your fantasy game. It's in this adventure. Then it talks about travel in the Pale, and then encounters in the Pale. Now, I did not run the real external. I didn't run all of this, so I'm going to kind of blaze through this next section, because it's mostly about that. They've got some folktales here that are playing out in the region. These are, I think, correlated with real folktales from that region, and so these are some things that your players can hook onto and kind of discover and find out about. Then we get into Kest. This is the map of Kest, which isn't so. It's not bad. Obviously, it's a cool map. I like the way it's drawn. It's neat. But there's some things that are not present here. There's no the tavern house isn't marked on. Oh, it is. Oh my god, I could not find this for the life of me. I'm an idiot. Yeah, the tavern house is up here. So my party arrived at the tavern house, and they went basically directly to the shul because they were looking for. Again, if we go back to the adventure hooks, they're looking for that Book of the Night Wanderer, which is believed to be in the possession of Arya. And then you've got the Shtetl of Kest. So this is just kind of describing the place. And then the Days of Remembrance. This is the celebration or the ceremony that's going on starting on Friday. It talks about the market. And then the coppers. It's young looking with foreign dress. They carry simple weapons and smoke nervously. So these are imperial soldiers deployed to the far reaches of the empire to conscript the very young. So it's kind of the coppers. It's the coppers. The shul. This is a place obviously where my party went to go see Rabbi Arya. And this place is actually really, really well specced out. It's 3 different rooms. There's all kinds of stuff going on. But because Rabbi Arya is looking for, describes here, wants to return to the Tree of Life to close the gate, say the rites of mourning over his fallen disciples, and retrieve the Book of the Night Wanderers from the hospice, he is looking for help, as most of his followers are not up to the task. He will only work with those who have proven to be both pious and discreet. So I have determined that my party is considered both pious and discreet by virtue of being the agents of the council, and so they kind of bypassed a lot of this, and he went directly with them into the dungeon. So I did that to make sure that we could actually get to the dungeon and get through it in a session, and that worked a little too well. We only ended up playing for 2 hours, which is fine. We had a great time, but if I had to make a change to my plan for next time, if I was going to run this with a new group, I probably wouldn't make Arya so available. They would have to do some stuff maybe to kind of get invited down in there. Then you've got the Office of the Parnas. Again, this kind of secrets and obvious information markings help you organize your data. The writing here is terse, it's punchy, and you'll note it uses that kind of style where important things are highlighted with bold text, and then they appear in the list below for easy reference. You've got the butcher shop here, the Giving Hospital. This is the tavern house where my party started. And then this talks about Shatterfruit Brandy and some gossip and rumors, which, again, we did not get to any of that. The ritual baths are here, and because I think of the reflections, kind of the reflective surfaces all over this place, including a long mirror hanging on the wall, that a book can travel here. But the cistern is greasy, and it provides no reflection, which is an effect of the book. So it's something your party would only know if they knew that there was a book, which I guess I could have probably indicated that to my party. This is the Holtz building. This is the building for the Holtz Company. And then you've got the Orphan's Mound. So Orphan's Mound is where the site of the Dawn Plague incident, which was really the burning of a bunch of Mazek in a barn, and they like charmed the adults to like come and get burned as well. So that's how that went down. It wasn't great. You've got the Kivier's Shack, where a willow switch is. And then there's a pile of dirt near here with the Vortzel Witch kind of digging down. So she is trying to dig down, or they are trying to dig down into the Tree of Life. And we'll get to why that's important. But yeah, we did not end up engaging with this character at all. Then we start talking about the Blue Forest. So this is another exterior location. It's out here. And so you can see there's Bronfman's home, there's the Shatterfruit Orchard, the Colony, Xena's Nest, and the Grove of Tall Grass. And you've got a separate encounters table here. Now, one thing I will say is the encounters, in general, I think the encounters in this book, the random encounters, are more like kind of omens are in Mythic Bastionland, in that once they happen, you kind of don't want to roll them again. So my advice when rolling these or running this adventure is to pick the encounter for the thing that makes the most sense for where the party is, and then check it off the list and just do that. Because rolling and then rolling again on, I rolled the thing I rolled before, or I rolled a thing that doesn't make any sense, like, doesn't seem as useful as just knowing all these and picking the right one for the moment. But each of them only happens once. I think for me as a designer, I would probably want to have like a kind of catch-all encounter that I could use when an encounter is rolled again. Just use this other catch-all encounter, or something, right? The Amaranth is a hidden trail that connects all the major points in the forest. So if you know about that, you can find your way around the forest. And then it goes into the location. So Bronfman's home. Obviously, I think Carl was killed here. There's a garden in the back, on the first and second floor. But yeah, Frank, possessed by the Debuk, killed Carl there. And then we get into the Grove of Tall Grasses. And I think this is where the Gilgul is kind of stashed out. He is currently inhabiting a tree and will possess the next person. Xena's Nest, so this is where Xena sleeps. So this is the Estrie, the vampire. Just a little nest of stuff. The Colony is where the Stecken folk live. So it's like a skeleton-like structure made of fallen trees and twisted vines. From afar, it resembles a great ox, taller than most trees. Honeycomb-like rooms. I think ultimately the Keresh Tigris will sleep here. And that's like something that shows up on Thursday, basically. This is the Keresh Tigris. It is a crazy beast. It's really scary and awesome, and it pretty much represents like the end of the region. Like if the PCs don't solve the stuff, it'll destroy everything west of the Blue Forest. Then you got the Shatterfruit Orchard. Shatterfruit like have to be boiled for like a day or whatever before they can be used because they're so hard. That's why they're called Shatterfruit. You've got the First Lighthouse. And the Soul Candle. So there's some cool magic items throughout this thing. And actually, something I want to talk about a little bit. I guess we haven't run into a bunch here. This bowl here, the Shaidim bowl, the Ink Mirror, Shatterfruit Brandy, I don't think is that crazy. But, like, there's a bunch of these little objects throughout. Most of them are pretty complicated, so... thread and wax woven together by ritual, typically in a cemetery. Burning the candle can free a human host of any spiritual possession. So, I posed the question to Yohai, like, how would anybody know this? How would anybody know that a soul candle does this? And I think he gave me some pretty vague answer, which is fair. Like, but in the end, he was like, you could just tell them, but you could give them some kind of clue. And I think, for the purposes of my game, being that it was a one-shot, I was like, I'm just going to take it for granted that your characters know, Jewish mysticism, mythology, lore, and so you're going to be able to identify things for what they are and kind of how they work, just so that we don't have to, you don't have to find something and be like, I don't know what to do with this, like, which still happened, but wasn't nearly as bad. Then we get the mirror. This is the river and the tent yard. This is like bones sticking up out of the beach. The cave of the carob tree is really weird. Obviously, we never went there. And then this is the Zandbreg ruins, which is way out here. So you end up the tent yard out to the Zandbreg ruins. This is a dungeon. It contains the book, I think, on Wednesday. So if the party goes looking, like, they can find the book in this dungeon on Wednesday. And there's some great stuff in here, but again, the party did not end up going in here, so I did not end up running this. But it is on the table for next game. So yeah, you've got the temple, you've got the sanctuary, again, Akeda knife, candelabrum, like, yeah, these are objects that I think have pretty clear uses. So these are pretty good examples of usable magic items. You've got the large tomb. The book is here, so this just spells out the stat block of the book and how it works. And then the Geniza, which is, a square pit dug into raw earth. A rotting chest is pushed against the northwest corner of the room. On the floor, a few feet away, are broken clay fragments. The north exit is painted black. A hall to the east is wet with steam from the baths. So yeah, it's a pre-burial storage place for books containing a written name of God. So in here you get the Hadassa Barter and Lilith's Ashes, which are both interesting powders that have unique effects. You get the baths, the drain. There's a monster, Zamzum, in the drain. There's a Hoshin in here, I think. Or is it in the cave? Yeah, then you get the cave. And then we go into the Tree of Life. So this is underneath the shul. Now, this is a complicated dungeon, and I have feelings about it, so I'm going to talk about it for a little bit. I know this video is already super long. But, first of all, some things that I think went really well with this dungeon. The symbols over the doors made navigating this dungeon possible. That said, I think, the Tree of Life, the, kind of foundational component of the Kabbalah, is, not a great dungeon design. It's cool. It's cool that it's used here. It's really, really cool that it's, to recognize it and go oh, okay, this is what's going on here. And honestly, they did a lot of really cool stuff with it. But it is not, I would say, a very good dungeon. It is very linear. You kind of know once you're coming in from one direction, you know that you're going to another place and where that place is in the dungeon. There's really no guesswork about where the end is. It's just fine, but it definitely felt difficult getting the PCs or the players to kind of engage with the place in a way that wasn't just I just go to the crown room, I just go to the sun room, whatever that was. Once they keyed into which symbol was which room, they just went there. There's a couple of other things going on here that are kind of interesting, some of the pathways are defined as places, but others are not, and so it is not, and the order that they appear in is not super clear. And the pathways, while appearing for some of these on some pages, are not on this map, which has the page numbers associated with the places. So if you need to know which room number the path is on, you're going to have to figure that out on your own, which I did. I just wrote up my own little map of this and kind of sorted it out. But it was something I had to kind of wrap my head around. It says here directionals are provided in clockwise order in each room description. PCs can enter either through the pedestal via the shul or through the Path of Harmony via Orphan's Mound. So that's if they come in behind the Wurzel Witch, or kill the Wurzel Witch and go in through that tunnel. Although there's a thing about that we'll get to that I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. The pedestal is the kind of entry room, and there's salt in here that if it's disturbed, it kind of breaks the whole dungeon. Like it kind of breaks the whole adventure in a way. So having the rabbi or somebody who knows how the salt works is, I think relevant. And then, there's mirrors all over this room, like in the top of the room, which created a sculpture. This all seemed pretty it was not super usable. It was cool. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't come up. Like the party had, so this is another problem. Arya was with my party, right? Because he wants to go do these things in the dungeon and asks for the PC's help to go down there. Coming up with a justification for why Arya couldn't just tell them things about the dungeon or how things work and make them explore was tricky. I had to be like, okay, yeah, he's praying. Like he just spends most of his time praying. And I had to just be like above the table with my party and be like, look, you can either explore the dungeon or I can just tell you about the dungeon as Arya takes you on a walk. Like that second thing doesn't sound fun, so we're not going to do it. They were like, yeah, that's fair. Again, the encounters here, while interesting and kind of neat, only happen once and might as well just happen in order when they appear in certain places. Also, the way it's described is you check whenever the party changes a level or makes a loud noise. And there's a couple of places where it's very clear that they're going to make a loud noise. So I think that's what the key is. You're supposed to kind of do that. But these are really, really keyed off of the locations in the dungeon. You might as well just have them be part of the key of that dungeon room. Doesn't matter that much. The workshop. This is a room that I had problems with. So the Duda, this little root creature, is stashed behind a parchment portraying a diagram of the brand on the wall. And there's a bucket with milk, like a bottle of souring milk inside. The party's going to find the milk because they're going to check the bucket. My party certainly did not check behind the parchment. So I had one party member who was just trying to douse everything in the dungeon with a little splash of milk to see what it did, because he was like, well, this milk must do something. Which was funny. It was, it was fun. It was funny. It was kind of hilarious, but it did feel a little hokey to be like, yeah, well, you didn't find the thing, like, so, never mind. But if the party did find this, if they found this doodah, and they did not know what this was, it's an inert human root. Splash a bit of milk to wake it. It doubles in size each time. Hold on tight. Then imagine a place you'd rather be. It'll take you there. The Wurzel Witch and the Stecken folk will avoid endangering the Duda. So, that's what this thing does. You would never know that. You would never know that. There's no way to find that out. Nobody else would tell you. There's no statement about anybody knowing how this thing works. So it's just a very, very strange. But this is very kind of present in this adventure where because it's actual mythology, unless you know that mythology, the chances of you knowing how these things work or being able to impart that to your party in a meaningful way is very low. Which might be part of the intent. I'm not really sure. But it did seem like a challenge. So you got some paths here that seem kind of normie. I don't know. These didn't seem like they needed to be rooms to me. But except for you got to crawl, from the west to the east. Okay, I guess. The courtyard, so this is another room. I don't even think the party went in this room. Yeah, they never did. The willow switch is here, so this is useful for seeing illusions and lies and invisibility and stuff. And then you've got some more paths. These are pretty interesting paths, or at least this one is the water vein. Yeah. And then the judiciary is a room with scales. My party never went into this room. They went kind of straight down these stairs to the shrine. And so they ended up, they never went to the pool of life, though they did after. And then we've got the shrine here. So when the party shows up here, the Mazik is here, hiding. It's invisible. And so because they didn't have the switch, the willow switch, the Mazik like attacked one of them and basically immediately did critical damage, knocking them out. Fortunately, another member of the party had some wound wax and was able to bring them back up to to full strength. But yeah, the corpse of the disciple is here. So the rabbi spends time in my game. He spent time like doing the rites of mourning over the character. They checked some of these. There's some really weird stuff in here, like there's a statue covered in vines that has a variety of genitalia, which I don't know what that means. Like, how many varieties of genitalia are there? Maybe there's a lot. Like, I don't know. Maybe it means like there's just thousands of little dicks and thousands of weird different shaped vaginas. Like that could be. I don't know. It just seemed weird. It's fine. This has the name slip for the Dazzler in it. So if you want to use this creature, it's defined here. The Dazzler, though, does not have a stat block. So you're not going to fight this thing. It's kind of like it's just kind of a weird creature. It's cool, though. It knows everything about the Tree of Life. So this is another one where if you actually get this thing out and get it to help you, it can kind of tell you everything about the dungeon, which is not how I would argue a dungeon should be run, because that seems like kind of counterintuitive to that. The Tree of Life, the bottom level, so this is cool. This is where the book was. The golem is here. I had one party member go into this room, grab this stuff, and bail out. They did come back later with the rabbi and move get the golem moving. By that point, though, they had already cleared out the treasury. They had gone into the engine room. They avoided the pit. And I think they saw the sculpture but didn't really interact with it because they were terrified of it. There's a greasy puddle. They ended up breaking an egg, I think, here in the treasury, which is an Aluka egg. And so the party member who broke that was on the, gonna die list from the Aluka. And so when they got to the throne room and that party member, showed up, the Aluka kind of immediately attacked, turning into an old woman with pharyngeal teeth, which means teeth at the back of your throat, which is terrifying, who smells strongly of jasmine. It's pretty crazy. But this fight went, I think, pretty much as expected. Although one party member did have their soul swallowed. I think the critical damage here is target's will drops to 0 as she consumes their soul. She recovers full strength. So that happened, and then she got smacked down. This is the Book of the Night Wanderer, so this is the actual book that the party recovered, and you can use it to summon angels in any of the Sephirah, the channel divine consciousness. Yeah, so that's these different rooms here, and if you're in a certain room, it'll summon a specific angel. Otherwise, you roll a d10 to summon this angel. Angels give you a boon, which I think lasts a year or something. Each angel grants a blessing, usable once per day, but demands a toll, immediate and perpetual. So that's how that works. The angels are dope. These are really, really cool. Then you've got your glossary of terms. This was, again, pretty useful. I handed this over to my PCs and were just like, hey, here's, if you need to know what something is, there you go. You got further reading, so Jewish folktales, stories and novels about the Jews, Kabbalah, mysticism, and Judaism. You get a nice author's note from Yochai. And again, your maps presented in an easy-to-reach place. A little note from Paolo. And then a colophon at the end, which is great. It ends with, "We cannot guarantee this book does not bear a true name of God." Just really, really cool. You got your index in the back here. And that is the book. That's the adventure Beyond the Pale. I had a good time running this. Actually, I'm going to say my party had a great time playing it. And they literally asked me, we're like, can we play the rest of the module? I feel like there's so much more there that I want to check out. And I was like, that's absolutely true. That's valid and that's true. Now, I may have screwed myself because in doing the adventure the way that we did it, when they defeated the Aluka, they defeated it on Wednesday. So the Kirith Tigris never shows up. There's just a bunch of things that kind of don't happen. So I think there's a certain amount of, I wouldn't call it railroadiness, but there is some interconnected tissue within the adventure that makes certain decisions have an impact on other decisions, which I think is great. It's really, really cool, but I may have kind of screwed the pooch by giving the party this really kind of straightforward mission that they executed on and succeeded. Either way, I'm going to have a blast running this again, for sure. It's a beautiful, beautiful book and a wonderful adventure, and just a wonderful read. I think if you're going to buy an adventure to read, you could not really do much better than this one. It's really entertaining. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. If you like these videos, I hope you'll hit the like button. If you want to see more of them, you should subscribe. And if you want to be notified when they come out, you can hit the bell icon. If you want to see these videos a week early, I do ship them a week earlier to my paid patron tiers over at patreon.com/watcherdm. And yeah, I think that's all I've got today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for playing. I'll see you in the next one.